Hi guys, this is Mrs. Freeman. Today we're going to solve some word problems using equations. So in order to do that, we're going to have three steps that we're going to follow. So our first step here is to define a variable. Remember, your variable is your letter that represents your unknown. So for example, if the problem was asking for the number of minutes that you spent on your phone, then your variable would be m for the number of minutes. If the question was asking how much money you spent on something, then you might put D for number of dollars spent. If that question was asking the age, then you might put A for the age of somebody. So your variable is going to be some letter that you're choosing to represent an unknown. So your second step is to set up your equation, and that's what we've been solving for the past several weeks in class. We've been setting up equations and solving them. And then the last step is you're going to answer the question to the word problem and make sure that your answer makes sense to what the question was. Okay, let's look at the first example. It says one telephone company charges $16.95 per month and 5 cents per minute for local calls. Another company charges $22.95 per month and 2 cents per minute for local calls. For what number of minutes of local calls per month is the cost of the plans the same? So our first step was to define our variable. So you're going to choose your variable based on what the question is. So the question at the end, for what number of minutes of local calls per month is the cost of the plans the same? That's where our variable is going to come from. So I'm going to say m equals, and I'm using m since we're talking about minutes. So the question was for what number of minutes of local calls. So m is going to stand for the number of minutes of local calls. That's what the question is. And then we have two companies. So I'm going to call this first one Company A in the blue. It says they charge $16.95 per month and 5 cents per minute. So they charge $16.95. You're definitely going to pay that. Plus, you're going to pay an additional 5 cents for each minute of local calls. Well, you're going to pay that 5 cents regardless if you're paying for 1 minute or 2 minutes or 5 minutes or 100 minutes. It doesn't matter how many minutes you're calling. That's what you don't know. So that's where your variable is. So 5 cents times the m, because that stands for the number of minutes. Then we're going to look at Company B. I'm going to call this second sentence. Another company, call that Company B, charges $22.95 per month and 2 cents for local calls. So they're charging $22.95. You're going to pay that every single month. Plus, you're going to pay an additional 2 cents for each minute. Well, that's what you don't know. You don't know how many minutes you're going to call, whether it's 1 minute, 5 minutes, 200 minutes. So this 2 cents is going to be multiplied by that m again, the number of minutes. That's your unknown. Now let's go back to our question again, here underlined in the black. For what number of minutes of local calls per month is the cost of the plans the same? So we want to know when this $16.95 plus 5 cents m is going to be equal to this $22.95 plus 2 cents m. Now, we just have an equation. So this is a variables on both sides, which we've solved in class. So we're just going to solve this. So I'm going to draw my line through our equals. And since we have variables on both sides, we're going to start with the smallest variable. So our smallest variable is this 0.02m. So we're going to subtract 0.02m from both sides. Okay, so they're going to cancel out on the right. And on the left, we're going to bring down this $16.95. Then we're going to say 0.05m minus 0.02m is going to give us a positive 0.03m equal to $22.95. Then we're going to get our constants on one side. So we're going to subtract $16.95 from each side. Okay, that will cancel on the left. We'll bring down our 0.03m equals. Now we're going to say 2295 minus 1695. And that's going to give us 6. In our last step, we're going to divide to get our variable by itself. So divide by 0.03. 0.03. That cancels, and m equals 200. Now the last step is to answer the question. So the question is, for what number of minutes of local calls per month is the cost the same? So to answer the question, we're going to say the cost is the same at, and our m equals 200. So 200, and we said m stood for number of minutes, so at 200 minutes. Okay, so let's look at example 2. So example 2 says one health club charges a $44 sign-up fee and $30 per month. Another health club charges a $99 sign-up fee and $25 per month. For what number of months is the cost the same? So the first step is to define our variable. So in order to define your variable, you're going to go to your question. So the question is, for what number of months is the cost the same? So since we're talking about number of months, I'm going to use the variable m. And it really doesn't matter what variable you use as long as you define it. And m, I'm going to say, is equal to the number of months. That's our question. Step 2 says we're going to set up our equation. So let's go back and read the problem. So the first sentence says one health club charges a $44 sign-up fee and $30 per month. So we'll use this one in the blue. So you're paying $44 a month, plus you're going to pay an additional $30 for every month you go, whether that's 1 month, 2 months, 5 months. So this 30 is going to be multiplied by m, because that stands for the number of months that you're going to attend. Then we're going to look at the second one. Our second sentence here says another health club charges, we'll use this one in red, $99 sign-up fee and $25 per month. So with this health club, you're going to pay at least $99, plus you're going to pay another $25 for every month you attend, whether that's 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. So this 25 is going to be multiplied by the number of months, which is our m, that you attend. Now let's go back to the question. So the question was, for what number of months is the cost the same? So you want to know when the first club in the blue is equal to the second club in the red. So now we have the variables on both sides. So now we're just going to solve. So I'm going to draw my line here. Since we have variables on both sides, I'm going to start with the smallest variable, which is the 25m. So I'm going to subtract 25m from both sides. Okay, that 25m is going to cancel on the right. And on the left, we'll bring down the 44, and we'll have 30m minus 25m. So that's a positive 5, so plus 5m equals 2, and on the right, we'll have equals to 99. Then we need to get our numbers or our constants on one side. So we'll subtract this 44 from both sides. On the left, the 44s will cancel, and we'll have 5m equals, on the right we have 99 minus 44, so that's 55. In our last step, we're trying to get a variable by ourselves, so we'll divide both sides by 5. The 5's cancel, and m equals 55 divided by 5 is 11. Now the last step was to answer the question. So our question was, for what number of months is the cost the same? So we'll say the cost is the same at, and when we solved our equation, we got m equals 11. So at 11, and the m stood for months, so at 11 months. And there's your answer. So this one's a you try. So pause the video, try it on your own, then come back and watch to make sure that you've solved the problem correctly. So let's read the problem. It says Hans needs to rent a moving truck. Suppose Company A charges a rate of $40 per day and Company B charges $60 fee plus $20 per day. For what number of days is the cost the same? So step 1, define your variable. So to define your variable, go to your question first. So the question is, for what number of days is the cost the same? So I'm going to use the variable D since we're talking about number of days. There's our variable. So now, step 2, we have to set up our equation. So the first sentence, Hans needs to rent a moving truck. So second sentence, suppose Company A charges a rate of $40 per day. So Company A is going to charge $40 for each day that you rent that truck, whether it's 1 day, 2 days, 10 days. So $40 times D, the number of days. And Company B, we'll do this one in the red. Company B charges $6 or $60 fee plus $20 per day. So with Company B, you're going to pay $60 up front, plus you're going to pay another $20 for each day, whether that's 1 day, 2 days, 5 days, 7 days. So $20 times D, the number of days that you rent the truck. So the question, for what number of days is the cost the same? So when is Company A in the blue equal to Company B in the red? So once again, we have variables on both sides, so we're going to draw our line and solve. So since we have variables on both sides, start with the smallest variable, which is the 20D. So we'll subtract 20D from each side. And on the right, the 20Ds will cancel. On the left, 40D minus 20D will give us 20D equals, and the only thing left on the right is a 60. Okay, so we already have the variable on one side, the constant on the other side. So the only other step we need on this one is to divide by that coefficient, which is the 20, on both sides. So on the left, the 20 cancels, and D equals, on the right, 60 divided by 20 will give us 3. So the last step is to answer the question. So once again, the question was, for what number of days is the cost the same? So we'll say the cost is the same at 3, since D equals 3, and D stood for number of days. So the cost is the same at 3 days.